Hello, homies! So today we are going to be doing a simple tier ranking list for the free-to-play Super Auto Pets. So this is going to be the base set that you can play if you download the game. So basically I'm just going to go through and give you my opinion on which things I think are S tier, A tier, B tier, so on and so forth. I'm sure if you clicked on the video you have a general idea of how tier lists work. So we're just going to basically go in the order they give us, which it looks like it's going to be in alphabetical order. So let's do it. So the first one we have in front of us is Ant. So I'm a big fan of the Ant. Two main things. One, to attack early, always good. So it can knock out a few of the other tier 1 units. Secondly, it gives that buff, the 2-1 buff to a random friendly unit, and you can pill it during the store sessions to get the permanent buff. So I think it's like a solid quality unit. I'm going to put it at A. It may end up being like high B once we kind of get through it, but it feels like it should be kind of in this range as like a really high unit, but necessarily not the best as like an S tier. Now we have Beaver. Beaver's like hit or miss. 2-2, so it's got good stats up front. And then obviously when you sell it, you get a buff to two minions, or sorry, two of your pets. So it's pretty good. Again, I wouldn't necessarily say it's the best pet to get early. I'd probably put it a little bit below the Ant, because the Ant gives 3 worth of stats, whereas Beaver only gives 2. So I'm going to put this in the tier below Ant. So if Ant ends up getting bumped down to B, then Beaver will go down to C, but that feels right for Beaver to be B. And so if Ant gets bumped down, Beaver may just move over to low B. Cricket. I don't really like Cricket that much. I mean, yeah, you get the 1-1 summon, so it's pretty decent for summon builds, but I just think it's kind of weak. It's decent early, but I think once you get to like tier 3, tier 4 units, you should not have a Cricket in your play unless you just have been getting lucky buffs all over it. So I'm going to put Cricket more as like a C tier, personally. It's not, like I said, it's not my favorite, so that's where I'm going to kind of throw it down. Duck. Duck, in theory, is really good, because when you sell it, you give 1-1 to all of your pets in the shop, but you're almost guaranteed to lose if you buy a duck in the first 2 rounds, because it doesn't give you anything else outside of that. So if you get some super early buffs on like round 1 and you can win one, then maybe it's worth buying some ducks. But overall, I think ducks are better in like a dream scenario than they actually are good. Because even combining the 3 ducks, so you're spending 9 gold. What's up, Skin Bones? You're spending 9 gold to get a 3-4, but then you're only getting a 2-2 buff. So yeah, you're getting 6 stats worth, but you're probably down 2 hearts off the get-go. So I'm going to put Duck in C. I'm actually going to put it below Cricket, because it's more of like a high roll dream scenario for Duck to be really good. For Fish, I mean, I think Fish is the best tier 1 unit. I don't think that's really a hot take by any stretch of the imagination. It has 2-3, so it's the best stats of all the tier 1 units. And when you combine them, it gives 1-1 to everybody. So, I mean, this is the best tier 1 unit. I don't think it's quite S tier. Of course, it could be, because if you get 3 early, you're pretty much guaranteed to have a strong board for the first 4 to 5 rounds. So that's great. Yeah, I agree, Skin Bones. Like the duck, selling triple duck is way better. So if you have 3, sell each one, because you get the 3-3 buff rather than the 2-2 buff for combining them. So yeah, so Fish, A tier, it's great. Horse, again, it's very situational. You have to get the summons to kind of get it rolling. You have to basically get an early tier 2 to make it worthwhile. I think it's super. I don't like Horse at all. I hardly ever use it unless they just give me 3 on the opening roll. I will never use Horse, or I try not to if I can. So I'm actually going to put him at D tier. He probably is. He's probably C. He's probably right here. If I'm 100% honest, he's a little bit better than Duck, because there are a lot of good summon pets. So I'll put him at low C. Of course, like I said, I don't think he's worth it. He might end up D as I kind of reassess. Cricket. Well, I guess this is Mosquito. Sorry, I always call Cricket Mosquito differently. Mosquito is fine. 2-2, deals 1 damage. So basically it's like he's a 3-2, but the 1 damage can bounce to a unit that you don't really need it to. So I would say he's probably a little bit worse than Beaver in my opinion. It's fun to have a few of them for like early chip damage. It can win you around, but not my favorite. So I'm going to put him at B tier because I think he is slightly worse than Beaver, because Beaver gives the permanent stats when you sell it. Otter, I love Otter, gives a unit 1/1. So when you buy him, you get a 1/1 buff. The only issue is it's random, so that kind of stinks, but you can kind of manipulate the board to kind of guarantee where it ends up. So I like Otter. I don't think he's quite A tier, but I think he's high B. He's definitely ahead of these two in my books. His stats are his main weakness because he's a 1/2, but he gives you the early permanent buff. So I personally play Otter quite a bit. But yeah, Piggy, 2/2, so another good body. So he's got to be right around these two guys. His bonus is you get you sell him for an extra gold. So when you sell him, instead of just getting 1 gold, you get the 2 gold. So that's always nice. So for that, we're gonna put him. I personally like him a little more than Mosquito. I mean, yeah, kind of like what you're saying. Skin Bones, like, if you have 3 mosquitoes early and you have them all, that's 3 free damage you're just getting. So like the more mosquitoes early, the better. But like overall, I think Pig is more consistent. So I'm gonna put him just above. Now we have old Crabby boy. So Crab is, I believe, 3/3 and gets the health of whoever's in front of him. So there's some ways you can like super buff someone's health. Crab copies it. Like let's say you get a rabbit, buy a few food items for a high health minion, like an elephant or a peacock that already has 5 health, and all of a sudden they have 12 health after like 2 buffs. You put a crab behind it, you got 2 beefy units. So I'm gonna put Crab probably low B. Yes, this is tier 2. By the way, thank you for reminding me. So now we're in the tier 2, so I'll put this back down here real quick. So this is my tier 1 rankings. I feel pretty good about where everything is. I may even do this as I'm kind of like reassessing. He's flirting the line. He's the lowest C-, highest D+ you can be. But yeah, so Crab, like I said, I'll give him a B. He's fine. I just personally have not tended to use him a lot, so I'm just going to put him as like a low B, high C. Dodo, obviously with the nerfs, Dodo's a little worse. He no longer will buff multiple units in front of him when you level him up. I think he just multiplies his bonus, so I think it's like do it once a unit in front of you, and probably do it twice, do it 3 times. So it's not as big of a deal to buff him a whole lot. Like if you have, a 10 attack Dodo and he's level 2, I think it'll do 20 attack onto the next guy. So yeah, they just changed it. They just did a patch. So Dodo, his ability got nerfed, and then Bat on the other set, his stats got changed. So I think those are the big 2 changes. I think they also made Parrot. They made something with like the start of the turn, end of turn abilities. They made it changed. So I'm gonna put Dodo. I'm still gonna put Dodo as a high B because it's just really good. He's better than Otter. Let's be honest. Just because getting extra attack on anybody as the battle goes in can really help, especially when synergized with some of the other units. So Dodo B. Dog, I think Dog is a bait. He's fine. He has weak starting stats, and he gets a 1 attack or a 1 health when you summon a unit. So if you're getting a lot of gold and you can summon lots of units early or get him to level 2, so it doubles that he's getting, I'd probably put him as like high C, low B. Now granted, this is just my bias probably against summons. They're not my favorite. I just think they're kind of cookie cutter in a sense. Like you can't really be super creative with a summon build. It's like, oh, you get this unit, this unit, this unit, and then you transition to this unit. Yeah, it is. He's a good unit. You're right. He's probably a little bit better than like Crab, because Crab is very situational. Whereas Horse, if you get him early, like especially if you get him right when you unlock tier 2s, he's fine. Obviously he scales better than these 4, so he probably is like here. Yeah, it's fair. Some people don't like Crab. I think he's fine. He might, like I said, he's on that flirting line. Yeah, but 3 attack starting is good. Like 3/3 isn't huge, but 3 attack starting is a pretty good place to be. Elephant, 3/5, and he deals 1 damage to the unit behind him whenever he attacks. So he synergizes really well with some of the other ones that when they get hurt, they do something or they buff and whatnot. So there's some really good synergy things you can do with Elephant. He's pretty tanky in terms of there's 3-5 opening stat. So I'm going to put him as a high B also, just because I think he's got a lot of synergies. He's good if you just put him in the back early to tank up some extra damage and whatnot. So Flamingo's kind of like Ant for me. I just really like that he's a 3-1, so he instantly is going to deal some damage and knock out a few guys early, and he does 1-1 to 2 units behind him, so he's another pillable unit. So again, these are my biases in terms of consistency and getting stuff. I just think guaranteed permanent buffs are always going to be good. So I'm going to put him right here near the Ant. Obviously it's for where we're at in the thing, so like in the tier 2 units, I think him and Dodo are probably the 2 best for tier 2 units. So yeah, I'll put him like right there, because he's a little bit better than Ant, because he does the 2 units of 1-1, whereas Ant just gives 1 unit 2-1. And the nice thing about Flamingo is you can guarantee who you get that buff on, because you just put the 2 units you want him on behind him. So again, we'll kind of tweak this as we kind of go, because I'm looking at it like, maybe Dodo needs to go up to A, because Dodo's good. He's very consistent. Even if you can't buff him a whole lot, he still gives free attack to the person in front of him. So yeah, exactly. The Dodo's basically a 2 attack, 2 health buff, whereas Ant is just 2 attack, 1 health buff. So he gives you 1 more stat, and he has 1 more attack on the front end. So Hedgehog. Hedgehog he's good, not great. His ability is when he faints, he deals 2 damage to everyone. So there's some really like fun like combos you can get with him, with like a whale eating him, he does 2 damage to everybody, and you have a garlic buffed up pufferfish that then does damage to somebody because he got hurt, and it's like you do all these things and all of a sudden nobody has health left. So he's more of like a meme fun pet than I think he's actually like super good. I'm gonna put him as a C. He's got decent stats to start with, so he's not bad to have. Especially you can put him at the back line, kind of like Badger, and just put a honey on him and be like, all right, knock out the last guy and be good to go. Yeah, exactly. He's early, mid, and then as you start transitioning mid to late game, he's not going to do it for you. Peacock. I have mixed feelings about Peacock. I like it, but at the same time, I think it takes way too much resources to get him to be really consistent. So I'll probably put him like right around this area, like mid B tier, because I do think he's good. But again, you basically have to get a garlic on him. You have to get him a few buffs for his health, just so he can get his ability use a few times. Because again, when he's hurt, he raises his own attack. So there's some cool things. Again, you can put him behind an elephant and buff him up. There's some ways to make him really consistent, but I just think as a 1-5 starting unit, it's hard to get him to scale really quickly. So I'm going to put him right there. The mouse, he summons a 1-1 for your enemy. So it's kind of like weird, but he has a 4-5 stat line, so he's really, really good if you unlock him right away. But he's not super good after that because you're giving your enemy a free unit. So I'm going to put him as a low C, just because his only thing that makes him redeemable is his stats. Yes, so the mouse summon does actually do something. So basically, let's say they're in their final 2 units, and his unit attacks and the mouse is behind him. If that unit still lives, the mouse will attack him. It backstabs the unit, his new friendly units, but the times you actually get to do it is so little that it's not very good. It's just lobster. I don't remember what they call it. He's terrible. He's a 2-1, I believe, and he gives a random friend 1 health when you sell. So no. He's probably even like an F tier if there was one. Shrimp, thank you. Crawfish, he's a crawdad. Shrimp, exactly. I don't think I've ever played him. I think I maybe played him 1 time because I was like, well, this is the only thing in the shop and I have 3 gold. So, but I think he's useless. Yeah, mediocre would be like a kind thing for him, right? Spider. Spider is a 2-2. He summons a 2-2. You don't want this. You don't want the shrimp. Get out of here, Enigma. You don't want that. So the spider is a 2/2. Summons a 2/2 of a tier above him, so he's kind of fun in that sense. I like him a lot. I don't necessarily think he's super awesome, but I really like him. I play him a ton. He's basically like one of my like insta buys if I see him early. So I'm gonna put him probably here, just because I play him so much, and I know that generally speaking I can get like 5 to 6 wins. So I think he's probably flirting. Like again, I think both of these could be A tier. He's also really fun with a whale because you get so many summons out of it. So that's my particular option on it. That's true. Spider does start with S, so I guess we have to put him at the S tier. I think that's a valid point. Thank you, chat, for reminding me that if they have an S, they have to go an S. Otherwise I'm spelling wrong. Yeah, so I'll put fish is for F. So I need to make a new tier for fish because duck is obviously with duck, and shrimp or crawdads has a D in it, so you put them there. All right, so our last tier 2 unit is Mr. Swan. I think Swan is awesome. A 3/4, so it's got really good attack, really good health as a tier 2 unit, and he gives you extra gold every round. So he's again one of the like, yep, buy him up. So he has slightly worse stats than the rat, but he gives you 1 extra gold each round, so he's automatically a tier above him. But I also think his long term of it is super awesome, so he's an A tier for me. No S tiers yet. We'll get there. There's a few I have on the list that I think are like, if you see him early, you buy him, and you good job, you did it. Badger. Obviously Badger, I got good feelings for because of the honey badger challenge we did last week and the week before. So it's fun in that sense. He's more of like, again, a meme build you can do with him, because what he does is when he faints, he does his attack to enemies adjacent to him. So I think he's a little bit better than Hedgehog, just in terms because he's a 5/4, so he's got really good starting stats. So if you get 3 or 4 buffs on him, put him on your back line, you're guaranteed a few draws then. Or if you honey badger him, you might get 2 freebie wins in the mid game. So I'm gonna put him above most of these guys because I do think he has some value. But he's not super great late game. You have to win a lot early to make a badger build work, which I think is any of the case of like the damaging units when they die. So I'm gonna put him as mid B because badger, it starts with a B, so he has to go in B tier. Right, guys? Am I doing it right? Which gives us to our next B animal, the blowfish. Again, good stats. He's a 3 attack, 5 health. When he gets hurt, he deals 2 damage to a random enemy. So if you have some ways to damage him, he'll do damage back to him. You put a garlic on him, he takes less damage, he does more damage. Boom, bop, bop. Badger starts with bad, which it is. Oh, touche. I can make a bad tier. Because he's a bad man, that badger. Dabger, okay. Dabger, put him in the D. Blowfish. Blowfish, I would say, he's with elephant. Both good. They're fine. They have some good synergies. Who am I kidding? Spider's better than both of those. So that's kind of where I'd put him probably. I do think Blowfish also has some options to put in other battles and whatnot too, to kind of get it going. So I'll put him right there. The Camel. Camel is one of those that if he gets hurt, he gives stats. I think one attack, 2 health to the unit behind him. So in theory, it's awesome, right? But you have to be able to have him get hurt a bunch to give his buffs. So again, he's really good with an elephant in front of him. Camel a lot of times just ends up feeling way too slow for me, because usually he maybe gets 1 buff off in a battle, sometimes none. So I played him a lot when I first started, but then as I played more and more and more, I started using him less and less and less. So I think as a result, I'm going to put him in low B. I'll probably put him ahead of Dog. He's better than Badger, let's be honest. We're going to put him there. The Giraffe, the long neck boy. Giraffe is going to be gives the unit in front of him 1 health, 1 attack. So Giraffe's good. He's a good unit. Again, he's very slow because he's only a 1 attack, 3 health. So you need to have a really strong team in order to make Giraffe work well. But he scales. You know, he's a scaler. So if you have him with 4 health, you put him in for 2 or 3 rounds, you get that free 3 or 4 buffs. So I have to say he's in this tier 2. I probably put him just above the Otter because you can control where the buff's going, but his stats are just really bad for a tier 3 unit. He's one of those like dream scenario, you get him right when you unlock tier 2 units, so you get a free tier 3 unit when you combine. That's kind of like the best case scenario for Giraffe. Kangaroos are great. You put him behind a big beefy dude and he gets buffed every time the unit in front of him attacks. He's an A tier for sure. Again, he can be a little slow because his initial stats are pretty weak. I'm actually going to put him probably above both of these guys. I really like Kangaroo. I feel like if you get one fairly early, he can be a great mid-game carry. You get a few buffs on him. He can even be a late-game carry. So yeah, I put him right there. Ox. I've had a lot of really solid runs with Ox, but I don't think Ox is ever a late-game carry. His ability is when the unit in front of him faints, his friend in front of him faints, he gets +2 attack and melon armor. So he's basically guaranteed 2 attacks every round, which is great. And you get, if you put like, let's say a spider in front of him, you're guaranteed 2 of his friends to faint. So he gets 4 extra attack. So in that way, he can be pretty consistent if you just put a few things in front of him to give him those extra buffs. So I'm going to put him at low A, because again, I think he can be a really good mid-game carry for you. He can get you to the late game to where you can buy some of the better units. So I'm going to put him at A. He may even be like a B plus when it's all said and done. Rabbit. I get why Rabbit could be good. I think he's not very good. I just think you have to spend so much resources to make it work, because his is when you buy food, he gives that whoever ate that food plus health. He's just too slow for me, and because his stats are really bad too, so I put him in the low tier. He's not quite terrible bad, but he's mediocre. So that's that. On to the sheeps. Sheepies 2/2 summons 2/2 rams. Great in all summon builds. He's better than a lot of the other summons in my opinion. I think he's right in this range, somewhere in the mid-high B. I think he's a little more consistent than both of these guys. This is where it's kind of tough, because like you have to kind of evaluate when you can get them and what they do for you later. So like obviously an otter is worse than a sheep, like if that's all you have in a store. But like when you can get Otter and what he does, I think for the consistency of like 5-6 wins in arena runs, Otters are good, sheeps are also good. That's kind of how I'm evaluating, just as an FYI. Snail. You have to lose for him to be good. So if you lose and then he's in your shop the next round, he gives 2/1, 2 attack, 1 health to all of your friends when you buy him. So in that sense, he's really, really good. But since he's so situational, he's got to be a C tier, because sometimes you'll freeze one and then you'll win a round and you're like, well, bummer. So you lost a free roll of an animal. Turtle. Easy A tier. 2/4 body, gives the enemy or friend behind him a melon armor, which negates 20 damage. And also, you can pill him to get the melon armor forever. So he's A. He may even flirt with S when I kind of reevaluate at the very end, because I think he's excellent. Whale. Whale. I love the whale. For whatever reason, I almost always buy him when I'm just playing for fun, when I'm not doing challenges and whatnot. I just love that he eats the unit in front of him, so you can like set up some really cool buffs and crazy nonsense like that. So I'm going to put him as an A tier, just because I think he's really consistent in that sense of being like your mid-game tank. Because like if you have him and a kangaroo together, you get some stuff. You have him and an ox together, you can get some stuff. So I'm going to put him just above these guys. I actually think I like him more than the Dodo, but I recognize the strength of Dodo, which is why I'm going to put them kind of neck and neck. Bison. Bison's another one of those super strong but very situational. You need a a level 3 unit but if you have it, he gets 2/2 each round. So in that sense, you can scale him to the moon, but it's hard to get level 3s. So I'm going to put him in the C just because it's pretty inconsistent. But when you hit it, it's awesome. Deer! So he's a 1/1, summons a 5/5 bus. He's a great early frontliner whenever you can unlock tier 4 units, or if you unlock them at tier 3, put him in front, don't even worry about it. He's really good with a whale because he'll summon the 5/5. You get that splash damage to break any special armor, or maybe a unit that's buffing somebody, so you get some free kills off of that. So I'm going to put him above these 3 and put him right there, just because again, that splash damage from the bus that he summons is great. Dolphin. I think Dolphin is excellent stuff because he deals, I think, 5 health to the lowest health enemy. So at first I thought like, oh, that's not very good, but the more I've played, the more I'm like, man, the Dolphin can snipe some people. He can snipe an early tiger. He can snipe an early fly, early turkey, so he can like basically end a team right off the bat. So I think he's excellent. I'm going to put him as a low A. Actually, I'll probably put him like right here, because if you get him right when tier 4 unlocks, like I said, you can end somebody's round just from his ability. So he's going to be right there because he's not super great. He's pretty consistent, especially when you can get him in for a few rounds in. Obviously, as people start buffing up all their units, he loses his value, but I think he's solid. Hippo. Hippo's another great like sweeper because when he knocks out somebody, he gains stats. So I'm also going to put him in the A tier. I think he's a better version of Ox, and but I also think he has his weaknesses. I don't know. I guess it's because I don't play Hippo a lot, so that could be a reason why I may be ranking him lower than you might see him in other things. I still have him in A, so it's not like I'm trashing him, but yeah, that's where I have the Hippo. Monkey. Give your front unit 2/2. Sometimes Monkey is S. Other games, Monkey is D because you get him too late. So I would say consistency-wise, he's a B unit because he guarantees the buffs. I'll probably put him in high B because sometimes you can get him too late to where it's just too slow because his own stats aren't very good. But if you have three health and you find one, it's probably worth putting it in because you can guarantee +4/+4 because you have 2 losses to deal with. And so for 3 gold, you basically, you get exponential growth from it. So he's a great scaling unit. So I'm going to put him right on the edge of being A. Penguin, too situational for me. I'll put him at C because he's still good. All level 2 or level 3 units, he gives a 1/1/2. So if you have a stacked lineup of level 2 and level 3 units, yeah, Penguin's great. But it's hard to get. His stats are terrible, so he's going to be a C. Rooster. I think Rooster's our first S. He summons a chick that has his attack. So if you get his attack up 10, so he's like a 13 attack, he's going to summon a 13 chick. If he's level 2, he summons 2 of those. It's too consistent. He's too good in that sense, so I have him as my first S. He'll probably be one of only like 3 or 4 S's that I have. So there you go. First S is Mr. Rooster. Skunk. When I first started playing, I thought Skunk was terrible because he reduces the health of their strongest health enemy. But if you get him at level 2, it does 50%. And if you get him at level 3, he does 100% of their health. So he takes 1 unit and makes it just 1. So it's hilarious. Again, I think it's more memey. But if you're doing like chip damage in terms of like Dolphin or some like the Hedgehog build, then Skunk is prime. I'm going to put him at high C though. Actually, I'm going to put him just above the Crab because he does offer value at all points of the game. But you pretty much need level 2 or level 3 to really make him work. And you have to have other things to kind of prop him up. Squirrel. He's terrible. Moving on. Worm, I'm going to put as low B also, because again, really nice, his ability. You get, when he eats food, he gets 1/1, but it takes a long time to get him going. When you get him going, he's great, but I just don't think he's quite as consistent as some of these other guys in front of him. Cow. I love cows. They give you 2 free milks that do 2/2, or sorry, they give you 2 attack, 2 health. So I'm going to put him on as A, because his buffs alone are worth it. get a few of these mid game. If you can pair him with a cat who doubles the effects of it, then you just win games from cow. So although he as a unit you hardly ever have in your lineup, just his ability to get those free stats, you do it. He probably is pretty close to S tier. I think the hardest part about cow is usually when you have like your late game. You can't fit him in because you can't sell one of your units. And so he's usually, like I said, I think mid and early game, he's easy A tier. Because when you get him, you can use his bonuses. Yeah, like you're saying, 9 value unit to get 4/4 to you choose. So that's why I think he's better than Monkey in that sense, but it's hard to fit him in sometimes when you're in those like final 2 to 3 rounds. So that's the reason why. Croc. Croc is like Dolphin, but Croc just hits the backline unit. So again, he can be really good if yes, he's a unit plus 2 pairs. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. We'll move him up. He's high A. I don't think I can quite put him in S, but he's high A. Yeah, Croc, like I said earlier, he hits the back unit, so he can also ruin some people's strategies. He's a little less consistent than Dolphin as a result, so I'm going to put him somewhere in this B tier. I really like Crocodile. I've noticed that I've started using him more and more as I've played some, so I think I'm going to put him right in this like extra damage range. Parrot copies the unit in front of him. It's level 1 ability. I've seen builds where it works really well, but nah. Too bad of stats. No, he'll be a C. He's a C tier because there's some good abilities you can copy. Rhino. Rhino, in my opinion, is just a worse version of Hippo. Again, my opinion on that, whenever he makes a unit faint, he deals damage to the next unit before the attack, so you can kind of chain knockout, especially if you're facing summoner builds. But I haven't had very good luck with him, so I tend to think he's not as good. That could just be I haven't played him very often. So as a result, I'm going to put him in this mid B tier, because he's still good. I see the value in him. Okay, I need to move Badger down. Who am I kidding? And you're right. Crab's going down. As I'm kind of reevaluating the units that I'm seeing. Okay. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4 more tier 5 units. Scorpion! Sometimes, Scorpion, S tier. When you get that perfect hit on someone's 45, 46 Hippo, you're like, ha, I win the round. Other times, you knock out their 2/4 Turtle, and he's a D tier. So, as a result, he's B. Right in the middle of the pack. He's good to have. You can use him, but he's a 1/1, so he's not going to survive more than one hit, but his poison ability can kill a unit. But it can be negated by melon armor, so that's kind of the trade-off for him. So if you have seen a lot of frontliners in your game, especially with the new versus mode, you can kind of see what people are playing, and so if you know they have a strong frontliner, you buy a Scorpion, you win a round. Congratulations. Seal, I think he's a 3 attack, 6 health, and he will give 2 of your friends +1/+1 whenever he eats something. So pretty fun in that sense. I think he pairs well with like Worm and whatnot. So I'm going to put him right in that same little category. I think he can be good, especially if you get him early. You can get a few buffs on him, but I don't think his ability isn't good enough to merit like A tier. Shark, I think Shark is low A tier also. I'd probably put him like right above. Shark's actually pretty good. Because what he does is whenever a friendly unit faints, he gets +2 attack, +1 health. So he's super strong in summon builds, obviously. So I think I'm going to put him at A. Right in that mid A. Man, I don't know though. Maybe he should be high A. I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm thinking maybe mid A. I could definitely see an argument for him to be high A. I'll keep mid. I think mid A is good. Turkey. Do you think he's a worse version of Hippo? Because he doesn't get the extra stats? See, my thing is like, all you gotta have is like 5 summons in front of him and he's good. Whereas Hippo, if you get knocked once by like a Scorpion, like, Shark's kind of a little more safe because he's going to be in the back line. That's my thought on it, at least. Again, this is my own bias. I play a lot of whale, so obviously shark does really well with whale because you're guaranteed an extra like 2 summons. Turkey, unfortunately, turkey is an S because summon builds are very strong. I don't personally like playing them all that often, but you get a chick and a sheep with a turkey, and cool, you did it. You're usually going to get like 6 to 8 wins if you get a turkey right when you unlock tier 5s. So yeah, cat. Cat's our first tier 6 unit we were doing. He doubles the effects of food items you buy in shop. So for that, he's going to be mid B because you can get some pretty awesome buffs from it. He pairs well with a moo. You can buy a cow, sell a cow, buy a cat. Boom, boom, you get 4/4. Holy cow, look at that. Cow's even more broken as a result. Dragon. Dragons have really good stats. 6/8, I believe. I get confused because usually when you see them, you may have already used the can, so they're +2/+2 already. Their ability is when you buy a tier 1 unit, so that's those first 9 units we put on the board, you give everyone in your team 1/1, but that basically means you have to have an open slot you can sell and buy. So he's a little less consistent, but his buff is super strong. So I think I'm going to put him right in the high B tier. Fly. Whenever enemy dies, he gets a 2/2. Obviously with a turkey, he's S. By himself, he's low B, just because he gets you free units, which is always good. So I think I'd put him around this area, just as a base fly. Yes, yeah, if you get Dragon when you first combine a tier 5, like if you get a level 2 when you unlock tier 5 units, Dragon is great. Yeah, he can't, that's what I was saying, he can be really slow because you have to have an open slot to utilize Dragon well. But he's still strong stats, so even when you can get him, he's a good stat line. And if you even can use him 2 times, he gives 4/4 stats. He even buffs himself, so like that's why I like Dragon. We got Gorilla. He is a 6/6, maybe 8/8, and when he gets hurt, he gets a coconut shield, which negates all damage. So that's awesome. Really hard to get, and since you get him so late, it's hard to get him strong enough to where he's going to be able to use his coconut shields reliably. So I'm going to put him in the C because I think he's a little too slow. Yeah, and you have to get a level 2 to use the coconut shield twice per round, so you can only use it once. So good in theory, but hard to actually utilize. Leopard, he deals a percentage of his attack to a random enemy unit. So if you get him a few buffs, if you put him with a Dodo, he gets the extra 15 health. He can like snipe 2 or 3 units as a result. But again, he's not super consistent because his opening stat line isn't super great. I think it's just 6/3, so he can get sniped pretty easily. So I'm going to put him in the low B as a result. I have lots of Bs, but that makes sense. There's a lot of good units. The Mammoth. He is, what are his stats? I don't remember. I haven't played a Mammoth in a while, but when he faints, he gives all your units 2/2. So, hey, he's a pillable unit late game, but I don't think because he's late, it's harder to utilize a pill. So I may even put him as a C because it's just really hard to use him. I'm going to put him right here. He's better than Gorilla. He's worse. Yeah, he's worse than Bison. Okay. Snake. Snake deals damage to a random enemy pet when his friend in front of him attacks. It's a lot of words I just said. Really good. Again, lots of chip damage. Yeah, Snake sometimes can be S, but with stuff like a Scorpion that can snipe off the guy that attacks, or a Turtle Shield, I think he's probably more in the A tier, like high mid A tier. He's probably a little more consistent than like your Kangaroo, just because there's a lot of comps that can fit a snake in, because usually by the time you get a snake, you probably have at least one beefy unit that's going to last 2 or 3 attacks, so you can snipe. Tiger is almost always S tier. The hardest thing for Tiger is to find out how you're going to fit him into a team comp a lot of times, but he doubles the effect of the enemy in front of him. So even though I don't always use Tiger, I still think his ability is S tier. It's too strong. Because he pairs well with Turkey, he pairs well with Snake, he pairs well with Turtle, with you know, anything that summons anything, he's too good. Yes, thanks, good in summon builds. Right. Which again, I don't think he's quite S tier because I think it can be easy to kind of curb his strength, but he's good. All right, let's do a quick reassess. I think. See, does anybody need to move up or down? That's the key here. I don't think so. I think this is good. I think Snail's really situational. I'm gonna put him right here. I might move both the birds down. They're so inconsistent. Yeah, birdies, you're going down. Parrot has a little more flexibility because he copies the ability from. Okay, boom. We have our lineup. This is our ranking. Let me know what you think. Comment below if you think I'm wrong about anything, or if you think my list is obviously the greatest it's ever been made. Hey, like the video, subscribe. Thanks for watching, everyone. Also, don't forget, put your shopping carts away whenever you go to the grocery store. Okay, it just helps everyone. It's just me. It's you're a good person. So, all right, adios.